Let me ask you about police reform. Senator Williams has a bill that was you talked about it earlier last summer and fall. Yeah. It looks like it's started moving through the process. It's actually a bill that's signed off on by several of the sheriff's associations and police groups. Yeah. Is that something, as a former police officer yourself, that you anticipate being able to sign?
You know, I'm always reluctant to say what I would sign, what I would not, because I don't know what the finished product. But one thing is, Senator Williams, Brian, I really like Brian. I think he's really trying to find what it is he can get done, knowing what he's got to be able to get to a General Assembly. So I think there is options out there. We can do a better job. I've always said that. And law enforcement's no example. I mean, there's times we need to change policy, needs to change procedures to do things better.
It looks like it's also just requiring a lot more training. And probably putting some things into law that are already policy that you can't do. Like you can't choke someone in St. Louis already.
Right.
Maybe codifying that in policy.
Yeah, I think anything, those things are all the hot button issues are out there. I think you need to take a look at, is there a better way to do it? And also understand though, also keep in mind, every situation is different for a police officer, especially if somebody's violent, especially if somebody's ODing on drugs, you know, and you're dealing with these people. You know, you see a lot of times just average people do whatever you can to protect yourself and save yourself. And you just get into those situations sometimes. Nobody can write the book what every situation is going to be like and how you're going to handle it. But I do think the training, the procedural process is important. And you know, in today's world with phones, with cameras and everything on you, you better be going out there following the guidelines that you're at, or somebody's going to find out you're not. You know,
a lot of this feels like it's a little it's symbolic maybe. But there's a lot of Missourians, a lot of your constituents have taken to the streets to protest. A lot of some did right down High Street early this summer.
Right.
When that many people have something on their minds, do you think this is a signal to them that when you said you would listen to them, you weren't just words, you meant it?
Well, I think not only do you listen to it and you mean it, what are you going to do? What's the action going to take? You know, one of the first things we did is we asked the Post Commission to say, hey, let's change the standards on our training of law enforcement. How do we do de-escalation? You know, how do we treat bias, somebody that's biased? That training needs to be in there so people know that. I think one of the things you realize too is, you know, a Kansas City environment, Columbia, or even Springfield now, is much different than a small county out there. You know, the situations are just different. So what that training has to adapt to is, for a statewide type of training facility, you got to kind of think into all those pieces that you're going to be dealing with. And I think that's what the Post Commission did.
How proud were you to be able to have the law enforcement training go into Lincoln University?
I mean, you know, that's one of the awesome things I get to do as governor. I mean, can you imagine the first time in the United States of America, right here, Lincoln University, African-American University, is going to get to have a law enforcement training. You know, I mean, those are the kind of things I think you're going to be thinking about someday. You know what? Yeah. I had a small part in that when I hear of a police officer coming from Lincoln University.
When I talk to police officers and even city council members, especially in the urban and suburban areas, they very much want to have African American police officers. They're very valuable, and they are recruited, but there's not a large supply of them. It was a great idea to put that out at Lincoln.
Well, I mean, you got Harris Stowe, you got some other universities, and I tell you something. Not publicly, I'm going to release, but I guess I am because I'm getting ready to say something right here, live, all that. You know, and whatever you said, well, whatever he said this and said this. But you know, one of the things is, not only do I want to get them in there, I want to pay for their scholarships for that. We're looking at some private sector funding to be able to hopefully maybe this first class or the first batch go through, that their training is paid for. Because that is something that's very difficult for somebody out here that's out there working, got a family, trying to go to school, pay for that, and to go into law enforcement. And I think we got some avenues we'll get to announce before long. Some companies in St. Louis, some major people stepping up and say, hey, I want to help with this. So we're kind of excited about that.